Ready now? Okay. Well, welcome again. Beautiful fall day. Nicest fall that I can remember in a long time. But the basic of the basics of what we're trying to do here. Um, and one of the things that I call the basic of the basic, or the foundation of developing our Buddhist perspective and a Buddhist way of life, is to adhere to the concept of nonviolence. First, you adhere to nonviolence. Now, the Buddhist said, do no harm. Doing harm can be the harbinger of violence, or doing harm is violence. But as Buddhists, we have our path for a wholesome existence laid out for us in the Noble Eightfold Path. And we all know what the Noble Eightfold Path is. Now, it's easy to know, and on occasion, if it presents challenges to follow, it's still the roadmap to peace and harmony, and we know that or suspect it or we feel it. You adopt an attitude of doing no harm, and then you try to understand and embrace and embody the Four Noble Truths, which then lead us to the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path. Now, we know that there are three categories of the Noble Eightfold Path. There's the wisdom component, the ethics component, and the mental discipline component. Now, go through them. I mean, mental discipline is composed of, right effort, mindfulness, and concentration. Ethical discipline is right speech, right livelihood, right action. And wisdom is composed of right view and right intention. Now, these steps do not follow in order when you develop a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They all occur all at the same time. If you don't have right view, you may not have right action or right speech. And if you don't have right action, you may not have right intention or thinking. One begets the other. There are 8 separate items on the path, but they require all of them working together in tandem for our awakening. And that's what we do our meditation for, is to awaken to the present moment. I'm not saying we're awakening to the secrets of the universe. I don't know the secrets of the universe. You're in school, right? They teach you the secrets of the universe? I didn't think so, because they probably don't know what it is. Now, the best way, and maybe the only way, to develop the mental discipline component of the Noble Eightfold Path is through formal meditation. And most of us, I think, do formal meditation. And if you don't, that's fine, but you might think about doing it. And formal meditation is different than just not haphazard meditation, but different than informal meditation. Meditation that's formal requires intention. All right. It requires awareness. It requires attitude. And that's all composed of that meditation. We try to cultivate the wholesome attitudes towards ourselves first, and then towards other sentient beings, and then also towards our environment. Now, one of our Buddhist views is that the understanding of the interdependent nature of all life, of all things. Now, the Dalai Lama talks about seeing the universe in a single atom. Our adherence to the concept of shunyata, or to emptiness, which we talked about, or which we addressed with the Heart Sutra, it tells us that there is nothing in the universe that is independent and self-creating. Nothing in the universe self-creating. In order for anything to arise in our world, it requires the atoms, the subatomic particles and everything to come together. They come together and form other things. Nothing comes out of nothing. Things come out of something that already exists. And we as individuals, while we're in the universe, we're not necessarily in the universe as much as we are of the universe. The universe has created it. So what our Buddhist perspective tells us is that everything is connected. We're all in this together, and our lives are dependent upon other lives. Other lives are dependent on our life. Actions by one impact endure as net to have impact on us all. So how do we embody this connectedness? Well, one way is to meditate on the four immeasurables, the Brahma Viharas, the four sublime states. Why are these four immeasurables so important? Because our connectedness is blessed with inclusion if we work on them. Inclusion in everything around us, inclusion with all sentient beings. All sentient beings share our desire to be happy and to be free from suffering. So we all start out with the same basic drive, and that drive can bring us together. Now, the four immeasurables, they start with loving kindness. In Pali, that word is metta for loving kindness, but etymologically, metta is actually closer to friendliness if you look at the Pali. When we make an effort to be friendly, we are reaching out to other sentient beings to include them in our happiness. Of course, it begins with those with whom we are close to, with those we love, and it goes on to other people. And then finally, people may struggle with. I'll talk more about that a little bit. But loving kindness is the antidote to ill will, hatred, exclusion, bigotry, and just a bunch of other stuff. Now, most of us are familiar with the metta meditation. And if you're not doing the metta meditation, nothing wrong with that, but you might want to try it because it is so earthy, so down to right now, right here. My reason for bringing up the metta meditation is to remind us, especially to remind me, to use the metta meditation. And if you do it frequently, you may notice a change in your perception. When you meditate on loving kindness, you begin with yourself. Now, the Buddha declared that whoever loves him or herself will never harm another. So if you love yourself, you will be kind and appreciative and happy with other people, as a rule. It constantly reinforces the do no harm instruction of the Buddha. The metta meditation begins with yourself, then is intended for someone or being close to you. And next you go with somebody who you come in contact, but you're not close to. You know, the clerk at the store, the person doing your lawn or whatever it is. Next, you take in a person or people with whom you have a struggle. Now, in our polarized world right now, there's no shortage of people with whom you struggle. Now, maybe not you. There's no shortage with people with whom I struggle. But just because I struggle with what they're doing or what they say, it doesn't mean that I can't wish for them to have safety, to have health, to have joyfulness, and to have peacefulness. If they had safety and health and joyfulness and peacefulness, I probably wouldn't struggle with them. And I don't think they would struggle with me. But you have to understand, I'm aware of the fact that some people might struggle with me. I can't explain it, but it's there. I feel it. These people who have developed this safety, this health, this freedom, and this peacefulness, they're going to be happier. And we all wish for everybody to be happy. Start with the intention and let it grow in its wholesomeness. And finally, you include all sentient beings in your meditation. Now, the next immeasurable is compassion. Now, the Sanskrit word for compassion is karuna. And etymologically, again, karuna simply means kindness. So we've got friendliness, we've got kindness. When we are tuned into compassion, we wish for the suffering to end for whomever we are engaged with, as well as all sentient beings. Loving kindness and compassion are tied to each other. They support each other, and one is dependent upon the other. Loving kindness is a desire for happiness for all beings, and compassion is the intention to have all suffering be relieved. The Dalai Lama says that kindness is his religion. So that's the basis for his thinking. The third is empathetic joy or sympathetic joy, or mudita in Sanskrit. And mudita calls for us to be happy with the good fortune of other sentient beings. Empathetic joy is the antidote to jealousy and selfishness, self-centeredness, and cynicism. If you enter into a mind state of happiness for the good fortune of others, especially in the case where it's someone you struggle with, you are experiencing a transformation of the mind again. There are those who take delight in the sufferings of others, or take delight in that, he got what he deserved, or I didn't get it. That's not our path. That's not our way. That's not our desire. And the last immeasurable is equanimity. And the Sanskrit word for that is upekkha. Etymologically, again, upekkha means to look over, to see over, to look at. When you look over, you can see a bigger picture. You're not just narrowly focused on, you see the big picture. These biases, we all have biases. And these biases are based on our experience and our environment. Our experiences are set within our stored consciousness, and they're very strong. They resist changes of perception, but through meditation and awareness of these things, you can change your perception. And when something happens that supports our biases, it only hardens the biases from within. And an anecdotal event is oftentimes reinforced by a particular bias, and then we transfer it to a bigger group of people with just an anecdotal. I'm going to be indelicate here. I see somebody wearing a U of M shirt, and I think right away, that person's conceited. He doesn't know how to lose. Doesn't have any character development. But that's my bias, and I have to break away from that bias. And in fact, I know some people from U of M who are friends. Meditating on and attempting to develop the four immeasurables can be mind-changing. Actually, it may be more than mind-changing, it may be world-changing. Again, if all our fellow humans were under the umbrella of the four immeasurables, our world today would be unrecognizable. Am I being naive to think that everyone will be in touch with these four mind-changing attitudes? Absolutely. I know I'm being naive. But at least I'll be happier. I'm naive and happy. If you develop the four immeasurables for yourself, you will be adding to the foundation for doing no harm, the foundation for our Buddhist philosophy. Additionally, you'll embrace the concept of nonviolence, and your foundation will be very, very solid. Thank you.